Hello, beautiful people. I am super excited. I feel like I say that every video, and that's just like a part of my intro, but it's true because today I am going to be talking about how I am officially consumer debt free. However, I'm not totally debt free. I have just paid off all of my consumer debt, which is awesome. I think it's quite an accomplishment. And the reason that I'm making this video is because I want people to know, one, it's possible, and two, that paying off debt is a very personal journey. I think that there are a lot of experts that say, do it this way, do it that way, this is how you need to live until you've paid off your debt, this is what you should prioritize, all of that. And I think the truth is, our financial journey is very personal, and when it comes to paying off consumer debt, when it comes to paying off debt in general, it is a personal journey. So there's that. The next thing that I want to say is that if you can and you are able to, avoid bad debt altogether. And a really good rule of thumb is that bad debt takes money out of your pocket while good debt puts money in your pocket. So if you can, avoid bad debt altogether. When I started my debt-free journey, it was about three and a half years ago. And I knew that I wanted to be debt-free. I just was not 100% sure how I was going to go about making that happen. And I'm super blessed because I had a friend that helped me walk me through some things and introduce me to Dave Ramsey. And I, not knowing anything and just feeling overwhelmed, I'm very, very grateful for his podcast, his YouTube channel, his books, Financial Peace University. There's a lot of really good information with that. And it was interesting because I got all of this information, and for about a year, I didn't really feel like I did much with it. And I think that there were two reasons for it. And the first reason, the biggest reason, is I had a lot of mental blocks that I didn't know how to address or really get over. But once I got over them, the second reason was I had to increase my income. Now, I did this in a very unique way. I actually went overseas and I was a teacher. So my cost of living decreased significantly and my income increased a little bit. But what it did was it freed up mental space for me to be able to say, yes, I can do this. I could look at what I was bringing in each month and what I needed to pay off. And I realized because my cost of living was so much less that I could do this. Now, I don't necessarily recommend that for everyone, but what I do recommend is increasing your income. And there are a ton of different ways that you can do that, and we'll talk about that in a different video. Anyway, once I started really buckling down and focusing on my debt-free journey, I started with the Snowball Method. So there are two big methods and recommendations for ways to start paying off your debt. The first way is the Snowball Method, and that method says take your debt, write it all out, and take the debt that has the least amount remaining and pay that off first, right? So let's say I have three huge debts. I have a car loan for $20,000, I have a personal loan for $10,000, and I have a credit card for $2,000. Well, in this case, I would pay off my credit card that has $2,000 on it, and then I would tackle the rest, and I tackle them based on like the least amount owed to the greatest amount. And so in my case, it was my car. I had a car loan with a balance of $3,000. And so I was like, I'm going to take that first. And it was an undertaking, but I was able to pay that off. And once I paid off my car loan, I took the $130 that I was paying for the loan, plus the extra money that I was putting toward it to pay it off and put it toward the next largest debt that I had, which was credit cards. I had about 3 credit cards, and they weren't crazy huge, but it was a lot. In total, I had about $12,000 in credit cards. And so what I did actually, and I also had a private loan. And so next was supposed to be a credit card that I had that was about $3,200. I didn't feel that that was the next best move for myself. And so taking that into account, I looked at a couple of other options. So method number 2 for paying off your debt and becoming debt-free is called the Avalanche Method. And the Avalanche Method is where you list out your debts, you list out the interest on them, and then you pay the debt with the highest interest rate first, and you just pay that off. Now, the reason most people choose to do the Snowball Method as opposed to the Avalanche Method is because the Snowball Method gives you a quick win. You know, you paid off your debt and that you can actually do this because it's a journey and it's a process. The Avalanche Method starts off slow, and for some people, they need that quick win, like myself, right? And it was interesting because in reevaluating everything and looking at things, I realized I didn't really want to do the Avalanche Method either. What I wanted was to save as much money each month as possible. And so I looked at, I went through and I looked at the list of all my debts. I looked at the list of how much I was paying toward each debt each month. And I took the one that had the highest monthly payment. So this particular debt was a personal loan. It was $7,000. And I had paid off about 4 over time, right? And so I still owed, no, that's not true. Flip it. I had paid off 3 and I still owed 4. Now, it was not next according to the Snowball Method, and it was definitely not next according to the Avalanche Method. But what it would do is allow for me to keep more money in my pocket each month. So that was the next debt that I tackled, and I worked really hard. I paid that debt off in, I believe it was like 4.5 months. Like, I was on it, which was really, really nice. Once I did that, I went to the next debt that was taking out the most amount of money from my income each month. I am outside and there are flies all over. I think because the sun's setting, but it feels really good. Anyway, so that is how I chose to pay off my consumer debt. It was definitely a little bit different than what's recommended, but I'm really, really grateful for it because for me, it wasn't only about seeing my debt becoming eliminated. It was about being able to know that I am actually keeping more of the money that I'm earning. I mean, with the Snowball Method, it just would have been much slower for me to really see that and take effect. And with the Avalanche Method, it would have just taken way too long for my personality. Okay, so what's next? Next, I am going to pay off my student loans. I owe about $60,000, 66 actually, to be exact, $1,000 in student loans. I will have a video about my thoughts on student loans and that whole thing later in the future. However, what's next for me is I actually have a plan. I'm going to continue to increase my income by adding different streams of income. So right now I work and that is my primary source of income, just that one. However, I am planning on making some investments and doing some other things to increase my income so that those investments and streams of income take care of my student loans and I don't have to trade my time for money for $60,000. I mean, even if I'm making $60,000 a year just in my salary, I would be a pauper to be able to pay it off in a year, right? But I don't want to have to compromise my lifestyle to pay off my debt. And I think the best way to really do that is to increase my income. So stay tuned, because as I do that, I will definitely document it so that you guys can come on the journey with me, and it will be wonderful and amazing. And soon we will be celebrating that I am completely debt free. All right, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye. There's a wasp.